Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Children of Morta, the board game by Rumus Games. Children of Morta is a 1 to 4 player cooperative game in which players are going to be going through a linked series of adventures as they develop and grow their characters, take on stronger and stronger enemies, build out their bag, and ultimately try to defeat everything and everyone along the way. Well, not necessarily the bad guys, defeat the bad guys along the way. Before we dive more into the game, this channel is sponsored by Allplay, more about them at the end of the video. In Children of Morta, you're going to start off fairly weak in the game. I mean, well, that's more complicated, we'll get more into that later in the review. You're going to start off in your basic form in the game. You're going to have your characters over here, you have your basic abilities, you have a very standard bag over here. Some of the mechanics we're not even going to unlock yet. There's the whole collaborative aspect where you can work together and slowly power up these combinations. There's a lot of cool things happening, but you start off fairly basic. You're going on an adventure. You can read your flavor text, you can grab your adventure marker, and then you can start moving along the pathway and then reveal the next token and see who you're going to be fighting against. Because ultimately, this is a bag building combat game. That's the main thing that's going on here. There's other elements, how you power up, how you build up. There's a lot of development going on, but the main thing you're doing is you're fighting enemies so you can power up, so you can fight stronger enemies, so you can power up, so you can fight bosses and power up, rinse and repeat as you go through the adventure. Over here, we're going to have two enemies, so we're going to grab these enemies, we're going to assign them, and we're going to take these enemies, place them out onto the various characters in the game, and then have those characters fight off against those enemies. You have a little card row at the top of your deck over here, and then you're going to start drawing tokens in the bag. Players are going to draw tokens in the bag, and you're going to be assigning these tokens to the various elements on your board. So you're going to take these over here, and you're going to say, oh, look at these colors. I actually got one of each color, which is kind of cool. So you're going to say, oh, I want to go ahead and assign this over here. The problem is this requires, we're actually going to move this up one. We need to advance our what's it called, our spending over there. So we're going to advance that up one. This would cost 3 of that in order to go ahead and activate that ability. So we can't do that yet. We could place this down over here, which will bump us up 1. That means next turn we can activate that cool attack. We're going to go ahead and just do a basic attack. And this is a basic point of range damage. When it's white, you just do a point of range damage, versus alternatively, you might be rolling dice, which can give you more effects over here. So that's going to be a stronger attack, also with the possibility of misses along the way. You're going to be assigning these two various actions, trying to combine them to try to get the most out of your turn. You can go ahead and combine 2 tokens to do a wild of any color if you really need a specific action, and you're going to be trying to, like, move up your evade over here. We're going to roll the die, and we're going to see whether we get, okay, great, we're going to move up on our evade track over here, which will help us avoid points of damage when the enemy attacks us. You're basically assigning these dice to various characteristics over here to power yourself up, get more points, you can spend them in stronger abilities, activate those abilities, and slowly try to handle the enemies in front of you. Now you start off with 1 enemy in front of each of you. That's pretty basic. You can usually take them out pretty quickly. Things will escalate as you go through it. You can go ahead, by the way, I should have mentioned this earlier, you can go ahead and watch a full playthrough on the channel. I've already done a full playthrough of the first, I think maybe the second mission. I don't know what it was. I did a full playthrough of one of the missions if you want to see the whole thing play out. But basically, you're going to be drawing tokens in this bag, assigned to various abilities as you try to take out the enemies, because if you don't kill them, then they're going to go ahead and deal damage to you. That's where you hopefully have moved up your evade over here so you can avoid the damage, or alternatively, you'll be taking points of damage instead, lowering your health. So you want to take them out, getting the rewards on them, and then when you're done with all of that, you can move to the next location as you slowly move your way towards whatever the mission goal is, the end of the scenario, and all that. Basically, the general cycle of this game is you move along a pathway, you gather enemies. If you don't defeat those enemies in time, by the way, they're still going to be there as you continue to adventure around. So you really need to kind of optimize to not be too overwhelmed by these enemies who are hounding you as you try to assign these tokens to your various abilities and combine using your built-in extra abilities as well. You have some extra unique abilities for the characters. If you're playing later missions, you're going to have various goals of things you're trying to do together by assigning, by basically utilizing this pool, which will eventually lead to you having a synergy where you can work together. This is not for the right characters, but you can eventually get a synergy between the characters if you build that up, giving you even more stronger abilities. Again, you are powering up in this game. In between games, you're going to have more to do because as you kill enemies, you also earn experience. You also earn gold. You can spend gold on better dice over here, better tokens for the bag. These are going to be tokens that you can use for advanced actions, which will give you extra perks as you use them. You can earn more over here so you can power up your abilities faster. You can roll extra dice. You have to spend money to take these tokens, place them into the bag, possibly replacing other tokens in the bag to give you a cooler set of things you can do with those tokens in the game. Meanwhile, you'll spend experience on various cards over here. So we have our deck of cards. You can go ahead and spend this experience and then power up various abilities. We can upgrade Decoy to level 2 over here, giving us a stronger card, a stronger ability in that spot that'll help us as we play through the game. So basically, you're powering up your bag over here, which is incredibly important. You're powering up your characters with stronger abilities. You're getting more gear, more items throughout the game. You're also getting those synergies between the players, all while the enemies are also powering up. Well, not really powering up, you're just facing off against harder and harder maps as the game escalates, so throwing you against more elite enemies with modifiers at times, bosses, things like that in the game. Again, you can check out my gameplay if you want to see a fuller playthrough of it, but with that, I'm going to go ahead and just jump into my general thoughts of it. We'll cover some more of the ins and outs. I really liked my first few plays of Children of Morta. I still like it, but I really liked my first few plays of Children of Morta. There's things I like, don't like, and can see others not liking about the game. We'll go through all of it, and there's a lot to get into. As far as things I like in the game, this is an incredibly straightforward game. For the most part, it's a pretty straightforward game. I can get you up and running. If you were sitting here playing with me, I can kind of get you up and running with like no teach. I can be like, sit down next to me, let's just do stuff, and you can watch it play out, and you can have people join your game incredibly easily. The rulebook is pretty accessible. It's like not the easiest rulebook I've ever read, but it's like the rules are pretty straightforward as far as what the game is doing. It's a standard bag building game which you're going to be using those tokens to activate abilities in order to deal damage to enemies, rolling lots of dice, with again a few other things. You can go ahead and spend rage to power up and add extra dice. You can use your abilities over here, your custom ability tokens over here, which act as wild tokens. There's a lot of flexibility for things that you can do in the game, but the general rules are pretty straightforward. And you feel powerful as you play. You feel like you can do all kinds of cool things. There's definitely a degree of luck as far as how the bag's going to play out, but you can use that to activate the right abilities, to combine them, to just power, to stay alive at times. Sometimes staying alive feels like an accomplishment. You're like, okay, great, the tokens didn't work out for me, I wasn't able to do a lot, but I was able to, to generate more rage, I was able to stay alive and not take damage, and that means I'm walking into the next battle even better equipped, and also I got rid of some of those corruption tokens, those bad things that get added to the bag as well, slowing you down. So it feels like you can do a lot in the game, and you are powering up session to session, which is pretty rewarding. So in between each session, you are going to be stronger. You're going to have better tokens in your pool. You're going to have more abilities. You are going to be developing those synergies between players. If you play it right, you can generate a synergy between players in a single round, in a single gameplay session by powering through the exact thing those cards want you to do, and then going forward, those two characters can act in alignment with each other in a way that just feels stronger. So you really start off with like kind of not being able to do a ton, but very quickly escalating how much you can do, feeling cooler as you do it, and just being it's a bag building game. If you like bag building, if you like deck building or that kind of concept, it has that aspect where you pull tokens, you assign them, you're kind of playing that weird mindset of you're dealing with what the game gave you because you can't control what comes out of the bag, but then it's up to you to build a pool that is as resilient to that as possible, and so you feel like you're making do with what the game gave you and still managing to power through. That is overall a cool feeling, combined with the powering up that you have. It's just a feel-good game. And so the first few sessions started off really strong. This is where we're going to get into the things I don't like about the game, because the game did kind of get less fun as I went through it for a variety of reasons. First, I'll start with the things that were a problem from the get-go, or the biggest thing for me. The tokens are tiny. I hate the size of this bag. I hate the size of the token. For a game that the core mechanic is pulling tokens in the bag, I wish they charged $5 extra and gave you better tokens. Like those, those tokens from like Bullet or whatnot? Maybe not that size, but like something closer to that. These are really annoying to pull from the bag. It's the thing you are doing 99% of the time that you're playing this game, and they are tiny tokens that are kind of annoying. Granted, bigger tokens will require bigger player boards or some adjustment, something. This game needs better tokens than than what you have over here. It's the thing you're doing all the time, and it's like the worst component in the game. That is my biggest complaint that is not related to the progression of the game. In terms of the progression of the game, the biggest challenge I have with it is that the game is too easy. Or at least perceptually. Assuming I'm playing it right. I think I'm playing it right. I'm pretty sure. I've gone through rules a few times to make sure. Whenever I have an experience which doesn't seem to align, I always like just double check the rules and go through. And I've read through them, and I think I'm doing everything right in the game. But you don't always get to kill everything. You're not like super powerful, but you don't really die in the game. Well, at least I haven't experienced dying. You have too much flexibility, especially with your tokens. You can act as wilds, and there's a lot of. Anytime you find yourself in a pinch, you kind of can get out of it pretty quickly. And I find that you power up much faster than the enemies power up, which means that, for me at least, it felt like you kind of just get stronger faster than the enemies get stronger, and therefore you can quickly accelerate past the enemies. Like, it didn't have a good curve as far as the difficulty. So I would say that while earlier games I felt at times I couldn't get everything I wanted, but I never really felt at the risk of dying, but earlier games I had a little bit at least closer to that. The more I played the game, the less that was a challenge. So now I as a player have a few options. I can try to house rule the difficulty, which is always not fun. It's something that's doable, but it's not fun enough to like, I hate having to try to figure out how difficult to make the game. But alternatively, I could take less rewards in general, like less power-ups, but that means the whole phase of the game I'm lacking on. Like I want that. I want to get all the fun, cool things. So giving up the fun, cool things to balance the game just doesn't feel fun. I'd have to make the enemies more difficult, but then I have to kind of make the game the right difficulty for me. That's going to be easily my biggest thing. So the complaint about the tokens in general, but then the fact that as I played the game, it just felt like the difficulty didn't scale well. The other complaint I'll say about progression is that for the most part, the game is kind of repetitive. Yes, it's fun to get new tokens to add to your bag. Yes, it's fun to get new cards. But for the most part, the new tokens and the new cards are just iterative aspects. It's not like I get a cool new ability. It's more that, oh, that ability that did 3 damage, now does 4 damage. That ability that gave me 2 agility, defense, whatever, now gives me 3 agility. That costs 1 less. It's iterations. So while powering up is helpful and powerful, you're kind of doing mostly the same thing every single time you play. So it meant that it was a combination of the game was getting easier the more I played it, and it was repetitive because you're mostly doing iterations of the exact same thing with not a lot that's really mixing up the experience. The enemies you face don't massively mix things up. The bosses do a little bit. Bosses give you different slight mini puzzles that slightly adjust the, monotony might be the wrong word, the repetitiveness of how you face off against real enemies. The bosses definitely did help with that because they give you kind of mini challenges to go through. But it's not most of what you're doing. Most of what you're doing in the game is facing off against enemies. Also, I'll note that the bosses, even though they kind of give you something else to do differently, they weren't difficult. Again, but for me at least, personally, my experience with the game, and I have not played through the entire thing, to be fair. I've played through 2 of the bosses so far, a bunch of the early missions. My experience with the bosses so far, even the first one, where I wasn't yet more powered up, was that they were pretty easy to make your way through it without ever really being at risk of dying. Like the first boss for me, I don't know what your experience was if you played this. My first experience was that the boss was like a little bit more defensive, so it took a little time to kill it, but I never felt at any risk of getting real damage done to me, and I don't know if I keep hesitating. Like, did I play something wrong? Is that possible? Maybe, I don't know. I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed this so far. I enjoyed it a lot more when I was fresh and when I was diving into it and when I was exploring more and still powering up. And I started to enjoy it less as the repetitiveness started being very clear. And as it became clear that I went from, ooh, this is a little bit of a challenge to I can just do what I want as I draw all the tokens I need from the bag, as I take the super powerful actions, and as the enemies haven't scaled up properly to match me. So overall, rating-wise, let's move to rating over here and final thoughts. I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I still have fun with it. It's still a good game. But if you would have asked me after my first play, I would have thought this would easily be a 4, possibly a 4.5. The more I played it, the more some of the highs disappeared, and the more it kind of moved into still a good game, still an enjoyable experience, but with some quality control issues, and then some balance issues as far as how the game progresses, and then some repetitiveness issues as far as how the game progresses. It is worth noting it's pretty easy to jump into it. You could swap players in and out wherever you're up to. You could have players, and that maybe that's meant to be part of the way the game's structured, I don't know. Like, if I were to abandon the characters I was building up as I dive into Mission 4 or whatever it is, maybe I just dive in with new characters, you could do that, but I guess I wanted to play the characters I had built up. It felt like a arbitrary decision to go. You've heard, I'm going in circles now. You understand what it is. I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5. I still think there's a lot to like here, but a lot to like with some things that held it back for me. As far as other game recommendations, definitely check out Slay the Spire if you're looking for a progressive system that kind of gives you a closed progression. You can play through 3 arcs, so to speak, of the game as you try to play your cards, build your deck, and take down the enemies based on the video game of the same name. So is Children of Morta. I should have said that earlier. Based on the video game of the same name, Slay the Spire is a fun roguelite to play through. And then also check out, what was the other game I was going to say? There's another game. Oh, Marvel Champions. Marvel Champions kind of has Marvel Champions, the card game, has a similar arc as the way you place enemies in front of each other, and yet you can team up and combine to try to take those things out. I found that kind of gameplay structure was very similar to Marvel Champions. Marvel Champions gives you a lot more depth, deck building, and other things to go through. And then earlier I mentioned this channel is sponsored by Allplay. If you go to allplay.com, you can find games from both them as well as a variety of other publishers. If you're looking for that cooperative dungeon crawling experience, something that's going to give you that adventure that Children of Morta does, you can check out Tidal Blades 2 Rise of the Unfolders from Druid City Games over on allplay.com. In any case, and until next time, hope you found this review helpful in some way. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and I hope you have a good one.